been, man? What you been up to?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm doing pretty good, man. I'm still a bit jet lagged. I can't even hold you. Like, I went out to Cali for the first time ever. It was also my first time flying ever. So I went from last Saturday to like Tuesday night. So I was pretty much out in the IE at the Inland Empire region, which is like an hour outside East LA.
Right.
So like the Redlands, San Bernardino, Highlands, Ontario, like those specific cities and counties. And yeah, like it was really 2 years in the making because I almost moved to LA in 2019 to work with the university over there. But after three interviews with both of the co-founders of the program at that particular university, I was rejected. So I was like, damn, I guess I'm not going to Cali after all. But then I had
Hmm.
connects over there and like very specifically in the IE. So like in 2020, we planned it for myself to be there for a week in 2020, well, May of 2020. And then all the COVID stuff happened like early on. So yeah, but then after just doing a couple write ups with this new platform that I write for and just utilizing the connects from there, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and book this quick trip out for 4 days. And time zone differences, they will kick your ass, man. They will kick your ass because
Yeah, I heard
you
about that
really,
Cali time zone.
yeah, because really, you don't think like 3 hours will make a difference. Like, so, but it does. I found myself like knocking out at like 3 or 4 p.m. just to wake up at like 6 or 7, just like so that way I could actually do stuff out in the West Coast. And then it was interesting social media wise too, because most of my followers are in the East Coast and people that I follow are in the East Coast. So it was like, okay, my timeline was dead by like 9 p.m., which is midnight out in Virginia time. So it's like, damn, like it was crazy. But the first 2 days I managed to hold my own. But the third day, I was dead. Like I was not. So yeah.
Oh yeah, man, I can understand that. Like me, I've never flew before, but hopefully I can like get that out the way either late this year or next year or something like that. Hopefully I can get that
Right.
out the way. So
Right. Like
that's something that I want to do.
yeah. And it's also figuring out, you know, when you want to fly to make sure that you get a plane that goes straight to your destination. Or sometimes like they'll only have it available for layovers. So like from flying from Richmond to Ontario, California, like I had to layover in Dallas, but my flight was late. So instead of having like a 35-minute like layover, I had a 20-minute layover in Dallas. And the Dallas airport is so huge. Like they have a whole transit system to go from one gate to the other. And I was just like, what? Like literally, if I would have tried walking from where like I got off at to like
All right.
the terminal I needed to be, like that was like a 30-minute walk in the words of like one of the staff members over there. So she fortunately pointed me out to the transit system and I was like, yo, this is wild. And then my layover from LAX, and LAX is a nice airport. From LAX to Orlando. So instead of having a 3 hour layover at Orlando, I had a 4 hour layover because my flight showed up to Orlando early. And I have a huge disdain for Florida, but I won't go into that. But like it was so rough because like my flight from LAX left at 11:30 p.m. At that point, it's like 2:30 East Coast time. So and also fighting jet lag too. It's like I was not prepared for the jet lag at all. Like it's a different beast within itself. So
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm knowing that's a different monster in itself. But yeah, man, it's been a while since we did a podcast. Shit, it's been a while since I did a podcast. I think it was February of last year, I want to say. And like the break that I took, it wasn't on purpose. It was just something that it was more so like a mental thing that I wanted to take away from. And I just told myself, like, okay, do I want to keep doing the podcast? What reason do I have it? Am I still doing it for the same reasons? So
Mm.
it kind of just one week led into another. And I was like 2 months later, I was like, I guess I'm taking a break. So what I'm gonna tell you is like the original name of the podcast was Views from the 601, but I've changed it. I've changed the podcast name to First World Problems. And First World
Mm.
Problems was something that I did, I want to say 2019. 2019, it was like an interview based platform where I get a group of people or one on one and we just simply have a conversation. So I wanted to just shift that into a podcast and just change the name of it and keep it as one entity. So that's
Right.
kind of what we're doing here. And this actually will be the first official, well, not the first official First World Problems, but it'll be the first integrated podcast, First World Problems. That makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I want to get into something that me and you know familiar that cause we worked on it a little bit with the poetry thing with the Scorpio film, but you released a poetry book, The Mission Told Through Poetry. And I want you to talk about that and the process of that and how long, not only how long did it take you to write that, but like at what point in your life that you was like, okay, I want to write a poetry book. How many years of this is in the making?
So the book itself is a collection of poems from 2017 through 2020. Some of these I use for open mics, others I use for local and national platforms. Uh, Visionaries is in the Scorpio film. Uh, and like some, like I believe I said this earlier, I never like put out to the public ever. So it was really interesting of like cleaning out through the hard drive and just going back through like emails, old documents that I like typed up and never really did anything with, uh, poems in my old phones. Like I really wish that I could have found my old Android phone, like the Samsung Galaxy Avant, and tried to see if I could find anything earlier because I converted over to Team iPhone in 2018. But like it was so interesting. And then in the book itself, like I even talk about like the influences in there from my extended family to my brothers to like this ex to this Farsi battle rapper that like was both really like pushing me to, make the book a thing. And I had enough content, like, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and put this out. And just trying to choose what to put on there versus what not to put on there was like interesting because I wanted to put it in three sections. One was like a community slash like social justice matter. Then the other section was mental health. And the last section was love, pretty much. People knew me mostly for my like ordinary love share poems. And I was like, okay. But then I knew with the following I had at that time that I published the book, which was September of 2020. I already read I already written for 6 different platforms journalism wise. Known in the Virginia battle rap community as someone who covers it, but also someone who knows the craft well. Uh, Already known in the poetry scene, hosted open mics out at VCU and just really knew people from all over, right? So like I was like, okay, I don't know what's going to happen with this, but I'm gonna put it out there just so that way I could say like I'm an author. I actually did this. And the idea of the book really again was like talked about for years, but I didn't really do anything to it. But a couple of series of events led up to it, from like the falling out of like my relationship with this ex to being unemployed, all going on at the same time. Like outside of creative stuff, like I'm deep within the health field. So
Right.
like the day before I was going to work for the lab company, I got cut. So I was like, what? So literally I had no job. I was scrambling just to do whatever I could. Like I had enough savings to, like get me by for the couple of weeks, but it was like, damn, I didn't want to tap into the savings for this, but like I kept my head above water, put out the book, and yeah, like the book was well received. It's not no New York Times bestseller or anything, but
Right.
for it to be in 11 states, 3 continents, because it
Right.
is also an ebook. So in China, like someone in China was like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and get the book," and then she was like, "Shit, like I have to get it as an ebook, but that's fine." I was like, "All right, cool." In the UK, and even Lil B, the bass god, out of all people that I interviewed in like
That's
late
dope.
December of 2020, but I didn't put it out until my birthday in January. Like he even had a copy. So I was like, okay. I
That's dope.
mean,
That's dope. I remember
yeah.
listening a
So
little bit in high school. Like me and my brother was listening in my high school. It was around 2012, 13-ish. It
mhm,
was like real big. And so, like, even though it's not a New York Times bestseller, having that title, Arthur, by your name, that's an
mhm.
accomplishment in itself. And like, I know I congratulated you then, but I want to congratulate you now with that accomplishment because that's something I want to do myself. Like, I eventually want to write a book or something in the future. But yeah, that is a huge accomplishment in my eyes, having that title, Arthur. So talk about the way people have perceived it that not only but did it lead to expectations or did you have an expectation of, okay, how many people I want to read it, this and that?
I honestly didn't have any expectations once I dropped it. Like
Right.
all I had, I was like, okay, I know some people are going to get it. I know that, but let's see what happens. And I remember like people was just like, yo, what? And just sharing the post I made about the book when like it came out. And it was just so dope that I got more support than what I thought it would. And then the timing of it too, because the week before that, I was interviewed on this RVA Rap Elite platform. And like people knew me a bit for doing the ciphers for the RVA Rap Elite platform. For RVA Rap Elite, it's pretty much like a Yo MTV Raps if people aren't familiar with it, but
Right.
for like Virginia based artists. So I did the ciphers all the way back in season 1. And that's when people was like, wait, what? Like you used to do music? And I was like, yeah, like I dropped 6 mixtapes from 2014 to 2016, but took them all down. And they're like, wait, what? But that's a tangent. So like with the RVA Rap Elite like platform, I did an interview, and then that was when I first mentioned a book. And then I remember, oddly enough, going to this Gold's Gym and just speaking to this beautiful Habesha woman. And for those that don't know what Habesha means, it's a Ethiopian or Eritrean individual, if you will. So I remember talking to her a little bit at the front desk, and I told her I did poetry, and I read two. So I read one of the poems to her, then the other one she read on my phone, and she cried at the one that like I wrote in my phone, and she was like, "Let me know when you're dropping the book. I will get it." I was like she
That's
literally
dope.
broke
That's
into
dope.
tears. Like so, like when the book dropped, people was sending me pictures literally for a week and a half straight, like from the day of when the book dropped towards like 9 or 11 days later, like, yo, like I got the book. And people would tag me on IG with like their receipts or like having the book shipped to them the next day. And I was like, what? And after the book dropped, I was like, okay, how do I go about promoting the book even more? So in the first week of October, I had 3 different events going on, and I performed poetry on this national platform talking about the school to prison pipeline. Then I did a video of the poem that I performed on the national platform talking about the school to prison pipeline. Then I was this moderator about like youth equity rights and partnered up with this LGBTQ foundation, Glisten, for like a Zoom meeting or whatever. And then after that was when Scorpio initially dropped in November. And then like it was just literally one thing from another that I was doing. But I realized like, okay, do I keep making new poems or do I read the poems from the book to give them a bit of, you know, what's in the book? So I started doing that on like a consistent basis because you got to market yourself one way or another. And eventually, like, that just opened up more doors. And randomly enough, I did this poetry outro for former URL battle rapper Sonny Colfax on his
Okay.
Bruce Leroy project.
I actually
So
got the book right here. I had to go
Hey,
grab it. For the people at home, this is it right here. And like once we
yeah,
drop this, I attach the link and things like that on social media and with the video. Can you see that good?
yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
man.
I can see that clear.
Oh yeah, yeah. I got this next to my bookcases, my books that I'll be reading. But
Where
yeah, man, that's dope. Just to have,
what did you think of the book?
um, like, I only read Visionary and Starry Nights,
Okay,
but I wasn't halfway. I was halfway through that one.
all right,
Yeah, I'm looking at it now where I had it bookmarked at.
yeah.
Yeah, that was dope, man. Like I said, that was dope, and just having somebody that I know book in my hand, like that is a dope. That is a dope feeling for me. And one thing I do want to talk about, it was a moment. It was a moment for everybody. It was a moment for the world. It was around, I can't remember when what period it was, but it was around the George Floyd and Breonna Taylor situation. And you got a video. What was you standing on a car or something like that?
So I was actually standing on like some wooden step slash table platform,
Yeah.
and this happened in late May, early June.
Okay. Yeah. Talk
Like,
about that moment and give people more clarity about that moment and what it meant to you.
so really, like from the moment of the George Floyd situation, I was enraged. And mind you, I'm not a black individual at all. So, like, I was enraged at it. And I kept seeing this pattern for years and years about this. And I made myself a very well known ally within the black community. So, when all the riots began, Richmond, we had the National Guard come out
Right.
on the like literally on the second night of the protests. The National Guard
Yeah,
came
that's
through.
crazy. That's crazy.
And Richmond was actually second in the nation for like the averages of people getting locked up from the protests. And it was like the first was Portland, actually. So it was Portland, then Richmond. And Richmond, out of the first 100 days, they actually protested for 98 of them. And with Richmond being the former capital of the Confederacy, too, there's so much like racial history within the gritty city. But at the same time, Richmond became so much more progressive compared to the other major cities in the South, per se. And like that day, because that was actually the third day of the riots. So like this was the day after the National Guard came through and like we were tear gas, shot at. Like it was insane. Like people was getting run over, like museums was being broken into, dorms were being broken into. It was wild. And just being at like in the middle of it, like you could really see who's fighting out there for the cause versus who's out there just to mess things up and not really care for the cause. Like they're just
Right.
looting because they see it as an opportunity to break bread. But the third day, which I decided to perform the poem at, like I posted it days before. Well, I actually posted it the day after the George Floyd protest because I was like it really didn't sit in my stomach. Like it didn't sit well in my soul whatsoever to see a police officer be on a black man's neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. And all over what, like a counterfeit $20 bill, and we never heard anything back about the $20 in general since then. Like it's like it was so disgusting. And once I got up there, because there were like things being said on social media like, well, people don't know how to peacefully protest and blah blah blah. And we had a peaceful protest. Like people was up there saying their piece and everything. So I said the poem and everyone was like, yo, what? Like, this is crazy. And then like before the poem itself, I was talking about how I was like a native from here, but I only said that briefly before going into the actual poem, and just to talk about ways to be a better ally per se. And the emphasis of the poem is to, have those uncomfortable conversations with relatives, along with raising awareness on what you can do, like whether you're black, a person of color, or white. But yeah, like I wanted to put some emphasis onto those things, and it was well received. And yeah, it was wild because people was like recording me for the most part, which was like crazy. I was like, what? And then people was like tagging me on Facebook, like, yo, like this guy, like he was speaking all truth. And I was like, yo, I never even met you. Like, how did you find my Facebook page? Like, but like I appreciate the support. And I actually started off the book itself with that social justice poem.
Right.
Like literally that was one of the major points of 2020 with the social justice movement, the whole George Floyd trial. And everything that Richmond did itself, we actually ended up on National Geographic for the year in review. So with the Robert E. Lee statue, that's huge. That's very huge, all sprayed up, blah, blah, blah. Like I was literally out there when all that happened. Like I was a part of that. So it was like, all right. So to make it on the National Geographic for the things that Richmond did to raise awareness of these things and make some changes, like the more things change, the more they stay the same to a certain degree. But like to really be a part of that and to have those conversations means so much, because outside of the protests, it's a matter of having those talks with people and helping them de-learn certain racial connotations and to really build forward about creating better advocacy for social justice.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely like that whole situation was definitely a moment. But down here, we had it was a peaceful protest in our capital, Jackson, Mississippi, as well as the city I'm in right now, is Hattiesburg. Like we had a peaceful protest, but for me, just seeing everything go on, and it was a pause moment. Like it was just, I didn't have any emotions. I didn't have nothing. It was just, I was glued to my phone. I was glued to the TV, and the world just stopped. Like you had people in Canada, you had people in Africa, you had people in India, you had people all over the world watching this one moment and standing with us. Because like I want to say, and I want to use this quote correctly, pain can be felt differently through the skin. but it can be felt the same through the heart in a way.
Mm,
So like me being black and you being white, our pain is different because only we can experience that because I'm black and you're white. But in the inside, we're the same skin and our heart beats the same. So that type of pain can be felt. And so just seeing people come to the aid of my people, that was something just amazing to watch. And I can tell, like today with the Asian thing, I can tell somebody else may be feeling the same, like with different races coming to the aid of Asians and things like that. And just watching it, like I said, just watching it and talking to my grandmother, talking to my mother and my daddy about it, it's just, it felt different. Like it felt, and I instantly thought about things that happened in the 60s, the civil rights, the in Alabama and things like that. And I was like, I wasn't around for that, but we was around for this. And social
right.
media and everything being displayed on TV, like gets can get that message across, and we can see that. But yeah, end of the day, it was just a moment, and I ain't never really just spoke on it publicly, but I just want to say there was a moment with that. But yeah, man, I want to ask you: is there going to be a sequel? Is there anything you have planned as far as books or poetry after this book that you've written?
I thought about doing a sequel, but it's like I should still push the first book some more. And
Absolutely.
then, because April is National Poetry Month. So it's like, all right, I got to find some way to push this or that and just keep it moving. But yeah, like it's it's in the works. Like I got a couple of different poems right now. Um I'm currently writing for two platforms at the moment. So it's like, all right, like I'm focusing on that. And then I know with the poetry, everything else is going to come naturally. And then in May, I'm actually having a feature drop. So I'll be on Skinny Hendrix album in May because I did like a poetry intro for that. So that'll be interesting. And when I played like this snippet of it on Twitter, like people was like, "What? Like you're on an album?" And I was like, "Yeah," but most people didn't know. Like I used to make music and rap, but like for the book itself, I'm not rushing it too much for a sequel. Like I'm still trying to find different ways to push the first one and see how that can go. So
Was there any like particular person or, well, I'm gonna say person, was there any person that inspired you to like write the entire thing? Like, was there any particular person with that?
uh like it was really two people in mind that I mentioned in the introduction that was like on and off about it. So it was the ex Kiara, and then it was my boy Fasil, who's the Farsi battle rapper. So Fasil and I, well, well, in the book he's known as King Fizzle, but Fizzle and I per se, Fizzle was a part of the International Slam Poetry organization I was a part of during his time at VCU, but he graduated like 2 years before I even attended college. But we just knew each other so well, really kept it in touch. Like just really kept in touch. He will come out to the open mics, like, and both of us, we just kept on ending up in the same rooms, in particular with poetry and battle rap. So
All right.
like just having the conversation with those two really like it was like it planted some seeds pretty much. And then Kiara, she's a writer herself. I don't know what's going on as it pertains to the rest of her poetry because like she had her own revelations on some things and I don't know, but like for the time being, like we influenced each other. So it was like, all right, I'm about the probably do this. And the book itself really took a month to do. So it was just a lot of formatting and a lot of like trying to figure out like, okay, what do I want to include? What do I not want to include? But again,
Right.
I was unemployed during that time. So I was really trying to figure out everything else in the world along with that. So, but in the introduction itself, I did mention like people that I think like my Bloods and Star Squad 7, my Sicko High family, which is like my extended family. Like we all just had that name. Uh, my twin
I had
best
it at
friend
one point.
Ashley. Yeah, but like it was just like it took years in the making because I never really thought I would be an author either. But along the lines, like there were people that have influenced me, so it was really, really dope. So,
Okay,
and
man.
yeah,
Yeah.
and
Oh, you go
just to
ahead.
say
You go ahead.
this, like I've been writing since 2008. I didn't put out my first book until 2020. So never say never.
Absolutely.
Never
Like
say
greatness
never.
takes time, especially something of this caliber. You spend your whole life moment to build something and see it finally come to fruition. It's an amazing thing to watch. And we both on that journey as individuals that we've been working on something for years and it's finally being manifested. And we working on something else too that's gonna be manifested later on in the years. But yeah, man, again, I want to congratulate you as a friend, as an author, and I'm I'm excited to see the journey. Like I'm just know I'm watching. I'm excited to see the journey of what's next and things like that. But yeah, man, I gotta have you on next where we can just kick it and not really just do interview style and just talk about what's going on.
Right.
It's been so long since I recorded a podcast, and to get back in my element, I miss it. I
Right.
miss it. I miss it, man. I
I
miss it.
bet.
It's been a minute. It's
I
been
bet.
a while. But yeah, man, I miss it. I miss it. But yeah, man, this gonna be something that I'm doing called the Gold Print Journal,
Mm-hmm.
and it's something that I do every month because I was a a journalism student at one point, and I missed that too. So I'm integrating a digital newspaper within my business called the
Mm-hmm.
Gold Print Journal. And we write articles, do a feature interview once a month, and we just put it out to the world. And that's what I'm doing with this one. And this will be where you will be the feature interview on that. And it's just something to
All
keep
right.
me like just keep me busy and keep me in there. Well, I'm always busy, but it just
Right.
keeps me back in that creative element so where I don't have to worry about business day in, day out, and I can put together a newspaper like I used to do and get back to my journalist element. So that's what I'm doing with that.
Exactly. And to really just push that out there, like something that'll take your mind off the business
Right.
because like once you find that passion, it's a matter of like following through with it. And like you said, you was a journalism student at one point. Like,
Yeah.
what were the changes? Like, did you graduate or did you like decide for undergrad to go under a different path? Or
Yeah. I changed my major. I changed my major because it was journalism, and I changed it to media management and business.
okay,
So yeah, I just changed my major and just shift everything over.
like that makes a lot more sense now.
Yeah,
Like, because like I could see you doing that more than the journalism, but the journalism ties into that to a certain
absolutely.
degree. So yeah, yeah,
Absolutely.
makes a lot more sense.
Oh
But
yeah.
like the one thing about journalism to me is like hell, like I stopped like calling myself a journalist and started calling myself a conversationalist with
Right.
the platforms that I write for because when you're having these conversations, like at times it feels like you're not specifically having a conversation with this person or that person for your job or for your brand. Really, it's like you're really getting to know the person more and to even build bonds, like outside of the initial purpose of it, whether it's just to grab some B-roll for like the news at 11 p.m. or
Right.
like to get this article put out by like Tuesday at like 9 a.m. or something, like just to have conversations with people casually, it can really build up things for the better. So yeah, like that's why I call myself a conversationalist rather than a journalist. So
Absolutely, bro. And yeah,
yeah.
man, like I said, I congratulate you. And I'm gonna continue to read this. I'm gonna add this on my list, my monthly list of books that I'm try to be consistent with. And I appreciate you, man. I'm gonna tie this into the link, and this gonna hopefully be released Monday, and we're gonna push everything forward.